Holy smokes, Brian, where did you come from?
Hello Sheila. Apparently from somewhere amongst the ceiling tiles. I have an odd feeling that my creator, whomever he is, added this feature of me falling into the room but could not figure out how to remove it. Fortunately our bodies seem to deny the laws of physics, seeing that you and I have no apparent legs connecting our free-floating bodies to our ramshackled feet.
You thought of all this while you were on the ceiling just now?
Yes.
You're so weird, Brian.
I suspect it's a high probability. Anyhow, Sheila, I'm so glad I ran into you. I have been dying to tell someone about my new Global Women's Issues presentation. Care to hear?
Brian, I really don't have time for this. I'm on my way to class.
Sheila, there is no time for this tomfoolery. I have only approximately 6 minutes and 25 seconds until my class begins and desperately need to practice. Now 24, 23, 22, 21, 20.
Fine. Fine. I'll do it. Let's hear this Global Women's Issue presentation of yours.
Fantastic. I knew you'd say yes. Now just
Is
let
this
me
guy
lie
for
here
real?
for a moment and gather my thoughts. Do not be afraid. If this title seems long-winded to you, that's because it is. But what we have here is feminism and the Roman Catholic Church. The effects of Vatican II inches, the positive effects of Vatican II for women's rights within the Catholic Church. But first, it is important to show the hierarchy of the Catholic Church, to understand how it relates to feminism and the Vatican II Council. This is condensed for time's sake, but beginning at the top, we have the head of the Catholic Church called the Pope. Under him are the cardinals, and under them the bishops, under them the priesthood, and finally the laity, or the normal people like you and I. Now here is where it gets interesting. Of the four listed here, there has never been a female pope, a female cardinal, a female bishop, or a female priest. That being said, it is clear to see why the Catholic Church is a hot button for feminism across the globe. So how does Vatican II play into all of this? Well, Vatican II was summoned by Pope John XXIII in 1962 and was held at the Vatican in Rome. The Vatican II Council was deemed necessary by Pope John, who instructed for the Church for the first time in 2,000 years, to understand itself.
In his opening address to the Council, Pope John addressed those gathered at the Vatican saying, "The Church should never depart from the sacred treasure of truth inherited from the Fathers. But at the same time she must ever look to the present, to the new conditions and the new forms of life introduced into the modern world." These were momentous words spoken by Pope John, who was speaking for a church that changed about as much as a rock in its 2,000-year claimed history.
Though for some a call to understand one's self may sound self-evident, but for many in the Church it was something they had waited to hear for a long time.
But perhaps the most remarkable word spoken at the Council came after its second meeting by Cardinal Leo Zefsens, who was quoted as saying,
"Why are we even discussing the reality of the Church when half of the Church is not even represented here?" As a result of Cardinal Leo's words, and for the first time in the Catholic Church's history, 16 women from across the globe were brought to join the Second Vatican Council. For the first time in 2,000 years, women were given a much-wanted and needed voice at the top to help those down below. There is no doubt these women helped to change and influence the role of women in the Catholic Church. some changes from Vatican II for women. Women were no longer required to cover their heads, deemed impure after birth, looked upon as second class, or considered a source sin and temptation. For many of us, these may seem like small changes, especially for those who wish to see a female bishop, or maybe one day a female pope. But as a wise professor once told me, the infrastructure always moves faster than the superstructure, or in the case of the Catholic Church, the laity will always want change faster than the Church is willing to give it. However, the Second Vatican Council showed its first signs of life into the lives of women within the Church, but as a result of the 2-year council, the Church made tremendous strides in changing its fortress-like reputation and reaching out to connect with its followers, which has no doubt led to one of the greatest hopes feminists within the Church would hope for, dialogue. Women are now able to discuss the issues they see with the hope instilled in them by Vatican II, that they will be heard. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this does conclude my presentation.
Brian, you're still weird. I'm going to be late for class. Ciao!